Welcome to another episode of Solve It with Sir Jude. So we are now on the third quarter, and the third quarter will be all about geometry. So in this session, we are going to discuss the conditions which guarantee that a quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So during your grade 8, napag-aralan nyo na kung ano yung parallelogram at kung ano yung mga properties ni parallelogram. But for today, sa inyong grade 9 level, we are going to discuss the conditions kung kailan ba natin masasabi na ang given quadrilateral ay parallelogram. So when we talk about properties of a parallelogram, so that is different from the conditions for a quadrilateral to be a parallelogram. So for the properties of a parallelogram, so it is given or already stated that the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. While for this one, we need to prove that the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So for the properties of a parallelogram, we have opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent, opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent, consecutive angles of a parallelogram are supplementary, diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other, and each diagonal of a parallelogram forms two congruent triangles. So, paano naman yung conditions for a quadrilateral to be a parallelogram? Kailan ba natin masasabi na ang isang quadrilateral ay parallelogram? So, let us have by definition. So, a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with two pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. So, ibig sabihin, kung ang isang quadrilateral ay meron dalawang pares ng opposite sides which are parallel, therefore, it is a parallelogram. So, for example, we have quadrilateral QUAD. Kapag si QU, this one, segment QU, is parallel to segment AD, at the same time, si QD, segment QD, is parallel to segment UA, we can say that the given quadrilateral or QUAD in this example is a parallelogram. So kapag ganito yung mga markings na inyong nakita sa isang figure, therefore, the given quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Again, that is by definition of a parallelogram. So by the way, this symbol, yung dalawang patayong linya, is the symbol for parallel. So let us now have the conditions which guarantee that a quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Condition number 1. A quadrilateral is a parallelogram if both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. Again, we need to emphasize that both pairs of opposite sides must be congruent. So suppose we have here quadrilateral QUAD, hindi pa natin alam kung ito ay parallelogram. So if segment QU, this one, is congruent to segment AD, so let us have the markings, and at the same time, segment QD is congruent to segment UA. So kapag ganito ang markings, we can say, since we have two pairs of opposite sides which are congruent, then we can say that the given quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So, bakit nga ba siya naging parallelogram? So, if we are going to have the diagonal UD, okay? So, if you can see, we have here two triangles that are formed. So, we have triangle DQU and triangle UAD. So, the two triangles are said to be congruent. Bakit? Because of SSS postulate. QU is congruent to AD, so that is the first side. QD is congruent to segment UA, so that is the second congruent sides. And then the last one, by reflexive property, UD is congruent to UD or by itself. So therefore, that will be SSS postulate, the two triangles are congruent. Now, since the two triangles are congruent, we can also say that angle QUD, so this angle, and angle ADU, this angle, are congruent because of CP-CTC or corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Since they are congruent, we can say that QU is parallel to AD. Bakit? Because if there are two lines cut by a transversal and the alternate interior angles are congruent, we can say that they are parallel. Okay? So, parallel na si QU at saka si DA. At the same time, by, again, CPCTC, these two angles are also congruent. QDU and AUD are also congruent because of CPCTC. Since the two angles are congruent, we can also say that ito yung two lines and this is the transversal. Since the alternate interior angles are congruent, therefore we can say that the lines are also parallel. So based on the definition of a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with both pairs of opposite sides parallel. So ayan. So we now have two pairs of parallel sides. So therefore, QUAD is really a parallelogram. So that is the first condition. Both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. Let us now go to the second condition. So a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. So yung una, both pairs of opposite sides congruent. For condition 2, both pairs of opposite angles are congruent naman. So to illustrate, so let us have quadrilateral ABCD. So to use this condition, if we can say that DAB is congruent to BCD, so BCD is this angle, and at the same time, ADC, so ADC, this angle, is congruent to ABC, ABC, this angle, are congruent, we now have two pairs of congruent angles, and they are said to be opposite, so therefore we can say that ABCD is a parallelogram. So if you can see markings like this regarding opposite angles, therefore you can say that the given quadrilateral is a parallelogram because of this condition. Both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. So let us now have condition number 3. So a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if both pairs of consecutive angles are supplementary. So if we are going to talk about supplementary, so that will be the sum of two angles is 180. So ayan, so let us now have WXYZ. So if angle ZWX, so this one, so this is simply angle W. And angle WZY, or simply angle Z, are supplementary, 180 yung sum, and at the same time, this angle again, WZY, this one with the red marking, and angle ZYX, so or simply angle Y, are supplementary. So ilang pares na tayo meron dito? We now have two pairs. So therefore, we can say that ABCD is a parallelogram. Okay? So bakit ba naging parallelogram ito? So if we have two lines cut by a transversal and same side interior angles are supplementary, therefore we can say that the lines are parallel. So ito yung same side interior. So therefore, WX and ZY are parallel since the two angles are supplementary. Same with this one. So the angle with the red marking and then the angle with the blue marking or angle Y. So they are same side interior angles and their sum is 180 degrees. So therefore, WZ and XY are parallel. So we now have two pairs of parallel sides. So this given quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So that is by condition number 3. Both pairs, kailangan parehas na pares ng consecutive angles are supplementary. So next, let us have condition number 4. A quadrilateral is a parallelogram if a pair, isang pares lang ng opposite sides, kailangan congruent at the same time parallel. So how are we going to show this? So if we are given with a quadrilateral ABCD, if segment AB is congruent to segment CD, so this one, and at the same time, segment AB is parallel to segment CD, therefore we can say that this quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So let us have another twist of condition number 4. So if we are given with BD as the diagonal, and we can say that AB is congruent to CD, ito yung given, and at the same time, angle ABD, so this angle is congruent to CDB, this angle. since the two angles are congruent, and we have here two lines cut by a transversal, these two angles serves as the alternate interior angles which are congruent. So base nga doon sa isang theorem na kapag ang dalawang linya daw cut by a transversal and the alternate interior angles are congruent, therefore the lines or the two lines are parallel. So ayan, so parallel din sila. So we can say that ABCD is also a parallelogram. So ito yung isa sa mga twist ng condition number 4. So next, condition number 5. A quadrilateral is a parallelogram if diagonals bisect each other. So how are we going to show this? Using illustration. So ABCD. So let us have the diagonals AC and BD. So the two diagonals intersect at E. So if AE is congruent to EC, so these two segments, and at the same time DE is congruent to segment EB, therefore we can say that ABCD is a parallelogram. So pagka ganito yung markings ng isang quadrilateral, we can say that it is a parallelogram based on condition number 5. So bakit? If you can see, let us have here the first pair of triangles. These two triangles are congruent because of SAS. So we have segment AE is congruent to segment EC. So that is the first side. Next, segment DE is congruent to segment EB. So that is the second side. We can now say that AEB or angle AEB is congruent to angle CED because of vertical angles. And this angle is said to be included between the two given sides. So the two triangles are said to be congruent because of SAS triangle congruence. So, since the two triangles are congruent, we can say that angle CDB, so this angle, is congruent to angle ABD, so this angle. So because of CPCTC. And if you can see, these two angles are said to be alternate interior angles. So therefore, we can say that AB is parallel to CD. So next, the second pair of triangles, etong green. So the two triangles are said to be congruent because of SAS triangle congruence again. And we can say that DAC, so this angle, is congruent to angle ACB, so this angle, because of CPCTC. And at the same time, since these two angles are alternate interior angles, we can say that AD is parallel to BC. And by that, if you can see, we now have two pairs of opposite sides which are parallel. So therefore, this quadrilateral is said to be a parallelogram. So let us now go to condition number 6. Condition number 6 states that a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if each diagonal divides the quadrilateral into two congruent triangles. So if we are going to have diagonal BD and triangle ABD, so this triangle and triangle DCB are congruent, we can say that the quadrilateral given is a parallelogram. Same with segment AC, which is considered as the second diagonal. If we can say that triangle ADC is congruent to triangle ABC, so we can also say that quadrilateral ABCD is a parallelogram. Okay, so we now have 6 conditions. The first one is by definition of a parallelogram. A quadrilateral is a parallelogram if both pair of opposite sides are parallel. Then, a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. Same with opposite angles, pareha silang congruent. And the consecutive angles, they are said to be supplementary. Again, both pairs, parehas na pares. Then, a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if a pair o isang pares lang ng opposite sides pero kailangan congruent at the same time parallel. And then the last two, a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if diagonals bisect each other and each diagonal divides the quadrilateral into two congruent triangles. Okay, so let us now have some exercises. Identify if the following quadrilaterals are parallelograms. Then we need to justify our answer by supporting with a particular condition. So let us have the first quadrilateral. So we are given with the markings. Is this a parallelogram or not? So we are given with the conditions. Alin kaya sa mga conditions na ito ang masasatisfy ng markings? So that is, a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. If you can see in the figure, we have two pairs of opposite sides which are congruent. So since JU is congruent to DE and segment JE is congruent to segment UD, then we can say that JUDE is a parallelogram. So next, let us have number 2. So we now have the following markings. Which of the following conditions is satisfied? So if you can see, merong isang pares na congruent na at the same time parallel pa. So that is, the condition a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if a pair of opposite sides are congruent and parallel. So since segment JE is congruent to segment UD, at the same time they are parallel to each other, then we can say that JUDE is a parallelogram. So what is the reason? Because of this condition. Ayan. Okay, so let us now go to the third example. There. So we are given with the measure of angle J, which is 120 degrees, and the measure of angle E, which is 60 degrees. Is it a parallelogram or not? So this is not a parallelogram because the given is insufficient. So kulang ng information. So we can also use it in solving. So let us have solve for the values of x in each item to make the given quadrilateral a parallelogram. Okay? So we are given with the first quadrilateral. So we now have 5x minus 5 for the length of EH, and for FG that will be 4x plus 1. So since we are given with segment EH is parallel to segment FG denoted by those arrowheads, we need to make sure that EH is congruent to segment FG. Take note na magiging quadrilateral to kung meron tayong pair ng opposite sides na parallel na at the same time congruent pa. Okay, so let us continue. So let us now equate EH to segment FG. So kailangan nga maging congruent yung dalawang segments na yon. So i-equate natin yung measures. So EH measures 5x minus 5 and FG measures 4x plus 1. So i-transpose natin si 4x sa kabila at the same time negative 5, or let us use the addition property of equality. So 5x minus 4x is equal to 1 plus 5. Simplifying the equation, we now have x is equal to 6. Tingnan natin kapag sinabstitute ba si x equals 6 dito sa both expressions na to, equal sila. Okay? So 5 times 6, that will be 30. 30 minus 5, that will be 25. So for this one, we have 4 times 6, that will be 24. 24 plus 1, so that will be 25. So therefore, since a pair of opposite sides of a quadrilateral, in this case we have E, F, G, H, are congruent and parallel, therefore we can say that E, F, G, H is a parallelogram. Okay, so let us now have the second example. So we are given with EFGH again as our quadrilateral, and we are given with the measure of angle E, which is given by 6x plus 5 degrees, and angle 4, we have 4x plus 15 degrees. We should also take note that the markings of angle E and angle G are the same. So therefore, these two angles are congruent. Okay? So, since angle E and angle G are congruent, and we are given with the angle F is consecutive to both E and G. So therefore, kailangan, we need to make sure that angle F is supplementary to both angles. Okay? So, since si angle E and angle F yung ating given, sila yung gagamitin natin to solve for the value of x. So, the measure of angle E plus the measure of angle F must be 180 degrees kasi nga kailangan maging supplementary sila. So, we just need to substitute the measure of angle E, which is 6x plus 5, plus the measure of angle F, that will be 4x plus 15, is equal to 180. simplifying the equation, 6x plus 4x, that will be 10x. 5 plus 15, that will be 20. So we now have 10x plus 20 is equal to 180. Then, transposing 20 to the other side of the equation, we now have 10x is equal to 180 minus 20. 180 minus 20 is equivalent to 160. Dividing both sides by 10 to get the value of x, we now have x which is equal to 16. Let us now substitute. So 6 times 16 plus 5, that will be 101. And for this one, 4 times 16 plus 15, that will become 79 degrees. Again, since angle E is congruent to angle G, therefore angle G is also 101 degrees. If you can see, the first pair of consecutive angles E and F are supplementary. At the same time, the second pair F and G are also supplementary. So therefore, we can say that this EFGH is a parallelogram since both pairs of consecutive angles are supplementary. So we are now through with the conditions which guarantee that a quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So if you've learned from this session, please don't forget to like and to share this video. And of course, if you are new to our channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more video lessons. So this is Sir Jude. Good day.